of prayer. I was told all I got to do is say I am, and I am. And I don't consider the Patriots of Prayer racist. I met Joey Gibson. I talked to him several times. He's a Christian guy. Okay, he may not have the same beliefs and philosophies as other people, but he stands by his beliefs. Okay, under the U.S. Constitution, regardless if you like it or not, people have a right to their beliefs. Okay, I don't like the resolution. I'll tell you why. Because there is nothing in this resolution that says what a racist is, what a racist group is, what an alt-right group is. Who's going to make that determination? Does City Council make that determination? Does the police make that determination? Does the state make that determination? What is a racist group? What is an alt-right group? And that's what I'm curious about. What do you guys consider Patriot Prayer alt-right? Do you guys consider the Proud Boys alt-right? Do you consider the Hammerskins alt-right? So the question is who's going to determine what these groups are? Okay. Second of all, is you need to determine if it's a gang that you're looking at or an individual. If they qualify under a gang, if you say, okay, this resolution is against gangs, then you need to determine what a gang is. Under the ORS, 5 people committing a crime can be considered a gang. So the question for you guys is, like I said, it was poorly wrote up because no one knows and no one has any authority as to who's alt-right and who's not. Can any of you guys say for a fact that Patriot of Prayer is an alt-right group? Okay, what if they say, well, we're not an alt-right group? Okay, who's there to make that determination? Well, yeah, you're an alt-right group. Who's going to make that determination? It's a nice resolution. It's wrote up to make Portland look good, and we're against racism. But it has no authority whatsoever. It's like, Portland police have a gang unit. Okay, they have one officer that's assigned to white supremacist organizations. They have 40 assigned to Black and Hispanic groups.
Testimony for today. Thank you. Any further discussion before we call the roll? I just want to make one point of clarification. The last testimony we heard does not apparently reflect anything that is actually in this resolution. And I want to just be very clear about that. Carla, please call the roll.
So it's both my challenge and my honor to bring us back to why we're here. And I want to remind us all about Nicole Grant's speech at the beginning of this hearing and how very moving that was. And I appreciate very much your work on this resolution, along with Senator Lawrence in Commissioner Fisher's office, Cynthia Castro in my office, Winter Johannes in Commissioner Daly's office, all women of color who have experienced this on a daily basis for as long as they've been in Portland, as well as Derek Bradley in Commissioner Hardister's office. And thank you for helping us understand what would be helpful and for putting in words some of the history that we need to acknowledge, that we are acknowledging today. Because yes, there are lots of hateful people in Portland in their own country, and yes, there is a great need for us all to unite and to emphasize love. And we have to recognize the history of this city and of this country, and of white people nationwide, worldwide. I am not proud of many of the things that my ancestors did, being from England, and the colonization, the slavery, the invasion of this country, the annihilation of the Native American people. I'm not proud of any of those, and I'm sorry for all of them. I'm sorry for what happened in Portland, what has happened in Portland over the last 200 years, and it's up to us to acknowledge these hurts, and they're not the hurts of yesterday. They are ongoing hurts. There is ongoing lack of wealth in for people of colour in Portland because of not being able to own property in the right places or keep property, because of not being able to get education and jobs, because of having higher incarceration rates, poorer health outcomes. All of the things that we have been acknowledging actively since 2010 when Mayor Adams and I heard the community and decided to move forward with establishing an equity program within the City of Portland to change the way that the City of Portland, the 6,000 people who work for the City of Portland, acknowledge and understand and work to make reparations on the hurts that have been done by the City Council in the past. And we're not nearly where we need to be. Our community is not where it needs to be, and our community is so divided with all of the horrible things that are happening both in our country and worldwide. And that's why we have to come together to unite, to say what we do believe in. And part of what we do believe in is that this pretense that that racism doesn't exist, or because I have an ex as a friend or family member, I am therefore not racist. We need to acknowledge and correct and move forward. And I particularly appreciate that this resolution is not only a statement of our values. And it is important to state our values. And it's important that all five of us have been a part of creating this resolution and that we are all supporting it today. We have community advisors in many different places in the city who do us the honour of forgiving the fact that we haven't done a very good job of community engagement in the past. We haven't necessarily included all communities. And now we have the New Portlanders Policy Commission, and we have the Human Rights Commission and many other citizen bodies who are willing to give us, the council, that chance to make amends, and I appreciate that. So thank you to the Human Rights Commission in particular, who last year denounced white supremacist groups and reaffirmed the commitment to dismantling structural racism in our city per the articles of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Thank you, Alan Lazo, previous chair of the Human Rights Commission, now from the Portland United Against Hate. Thank you for all of the groups that have come together since the fall of 2016 to make sure that we do talk to each other more, work together more, and stick together more. I do acknowledge that some people may be concerned that this resolution is just empty words. If you go to the 1900 buildings, look at the 1900 buildings where the Bureau of Development Services is, look at the placard honouring former city employee and Army veteran Rick Best, who was killed standing up to hate during the Max incident nearly 2 years ago. The placard reads, "I can't stand by and do nothing. Neither can we, and we won't."
Well, I got up a minute ago and made a phone call because something popped up on my phone, and today we announced that a very distinguished candidate for a high city office had accepted the position. She's the Deputy Commissioner for the Parks and Recreation System in New York City, and a first in her class, if you will, youngest ever to be Borough Commander, first woman to that position. You know, I think we give people a lot of latitude when they make comments, but someone chose this moment to attack her based on what they perceive to be her race and her sexual orientation. And as I said to the reporter, even by the loose guidelines of your newspaper, you need to take that down. Because it's not in the public record, it's not appropriate, and it's just completely inappropriate for someone to write such a thing. So if we need a reminder, and I don't often look to the comments section of the newspapers because I think that's in the area that sometimes just operates below the sewer. It is in fact where some people anonymously feel comfortable sharing things, which I think give us something of the temperature of our times. This has been a long week for us, and a week in which this council has stepped up and done some of its finest work. And here's a little secret about this council, and it's been the same my entire 10 years. We do our best work when all 5 members of the council are engaged and when we can build consensus. there's nothing particularly noble about a 3-2 vote or a closely divided issue. What I often conclude from some of the sort of more conflicted votes that we have is that I wished in retrospect we had more time to build a consensus, which is always within our reach. It takes the time and the humility to engage people's perspectives. And when we do that, we get to a better place. And I'm extremely proud to be on a council that is going to vote 5-0 in support of this resolution. I gave my closing statement as an opening statement, so I won't bore you with the speech a second time, although it probably reads better the second time. I will say this. I listened very carefully, not only to Nicole's beautiful statement, and Nicole handles the hardest portfolio in the mayor's office and probably ends up getting the most crap on a daily basis of any staff person in the building. And I think what she's hearing from this dais is how proud we are about what she did today and her comment and the way she spoke from her heart and shared her story. We can agree or disagree about issues that come before this dais, but we can also take a moment to be proud of a public servant that's willing to come forward and share her story. And we should acknowledge that. But here's the, in addition to thanking Asena Lawrence, Asena, would you raise your hand, please? Who is my policy advisor and works so hard on this resolution with each of our offices and staff. I have a special request. I think someday people are going to look back on this resolution in this moment and say that maybe, and this is what I hope, we chose a different and novel path for how we were going to address a number of related issues in our community. And many of the people who testified today have very strong views about how to deal with disruptions on our streets and the rise of hate groups and other things. And they have presented a path that is different than some of the legislative fixes that we've debated in the past. So I think people are going to come back and want to look at this resolution, and here's the challenge. They're not going to find the testimony unless they look separately for the testimony, because they have to go and through another database find the record. And by the way, people testify at a microphone, words get missed. It's not word for word always as accurate as it could be. So my request to Eric, Amy, Bobbin, Alan, Maria, and Wajdi, who today have shared with us absolutely superb testimony. In fact, I think one of the best presentations we've ever had, and you elevated the conversation so beautifully. I would ask that each of you consider emailing your testimony to Carla so that your testimony can be made part of the record with the resolution, so that someone doesn't have to go find your testimony through some other database, so that forever the resolution will be married with your statements. And I hope you'll consider that. My office would be happy to help. Even we'd be happy to take simple Xeroxes if that's easier. But please don't leave without having your testimony memorialized as part of the packet, because I think you've done something special today, and each of you said something important and inspired each of us. Colleagues, I appreciate the way we've worked on this as we have worked this week on many other issues, and I hope this is the beginning of a pattern in how this council operates.
Hardesty.
You don't have to look far. Just in the comments section of any newspaper to find out whether or not racism is still alive and well in Oregon. In fact, anytime there's an article or an issue around race, you don't even have to look far in the comments to see the hatred, to see the white supremacist mindset of those who like to be anonymous when they write their hate speech. I am extremely proud of this city council because I made a request of the state of Oregon in July of 2017. That request to our state elected leaders was that they all sign on to a letter stating that they were opposed to white supremacist activity, hate groups, and the alt-right organizing in the state of Oregon.
How about the alt-left?
At the time that I made that request, I was told that most of our state elected leaders had signed on and they were just waiting for one more signature. Again, that was July 2017. We're still waiting for that last signature to show up. that letter has never been finalized and published. I'm saddened by that because anybody that grew up during the civil rights movement understands what happens when we are silent in the face of hate, organized hate groups taking over our community. I'm proud of my colleagues because we were all not of like minds in the beginning, but we worked hard to get to a consensus about what we would present today and then what would happen after today. Because I don't believe anyone in this room believes that today's gonna fix